travel to the grand county of Kilkenny, home of historical landmarks and an endless variety of festivals each year, and of course home of the mighty Cats, winners of more All-Irelands than any other county in history, and today we meet one of their hurling legends. Eddie Keher is a true hurling legend, winner of 6 All-Ireland medals, 3 National Leagues and 10 Leinsters. We are truly honoured to be speaking with him today as he invites us through the half door.
Hello, Michael.
Eddie Keher, great to meet the legend.
You're very welcome to Innistea. Come inside.
Thank you very much indeed. With a career tally of 56 goals and 307 points, Eddie has truly made his mark on the sport, making 50 championship appearances before his retirement and the recipient of 4 Culhullen Awards and 5 All-Stars. Eddie was also voted onto the hurling team of the century, and in the year 2000 voted onto the hurling team of the millennium.
Come over here, Michael, and I'll show you a few pictures. That one is taken at the last All-Ireland in September of the whole family, including the Australians, grandchildren and everything.
Very happy photograph.
Very happy photograph. I guess we won that one. And that's one taken in Croke Park with the launch of the Hall of Fame in the museum in Croke Park. And this one here then is the Roar Innistea team who won their one and only county final in 1968.
Very historic. There's a lot of history. We want to find out more about it.
Okay, we'll do that.
Absolutely delighted to be here today, and thank you very, very much indeed for having us in Innistea. A beautiful village.
Lovely village. It's one of the most scenic villages in the country, we would say, but certainly in the southeast. And I was very fortunate to be born here and reared here.
Your dad doesn't come from here. Your dad is a West of Ireland man.
He is. He's from a place called Ballydooley, Dunamman in Roscommon. And he played a bit of football, of course. He played football with the local Club Oran, and then he played, I think he had 1 or 2 games at Roscommon before he went and joined the Guards, one of the early lots of Guards in 2 or 3, and then he was posted to Kilkenny. He was in Kilkenny City, I think he was in Tullaroan, and then he was appointed here to Innistea, and this is where he met my mother. My mother's an Innistea woman, or was, I should say, God be good to her. And so I was born here and reared here. And as young lads, I suppose 3 or 4, and with my neighbours, the Ryans and Hogans, the Wires, we used to venture out onto the square, which is in the village, and that's where we did our early hurling. And some of the older lads did a bit of coaching, informal coaching, you know, Father Michael Noonan now, and Jimmy Phelan, those sort of lads gave us the early tips on hurling, and I was very fortunate to come under the tutelage, if you like to call it in the hurling sense, with Father Tommy Marr, who was a brilliant coach, and Enda McAvoy wrote a book on his career, and he was called the godfather of modern hurling, and he changed the face of hurling and made it the sort of game it is today. So I was fortunate there. We won 2 All-Ireland senior titles while I was there. I learned most of the hurling in the early days in St. Kieran's College.
Yeah. You had the distinction, very few would have it, a few have had probably, have played 4 years at minor level, which is quite phenomenal.
Well, I suppose it would be in today's terms all right. There's so many different championships, but I was a sub the first year, my first year, and then played in 3 years. Beaten in 2 All-Ireland finals and 1 semi-final against Galway in '58.
So some of those early finals, Eddie, didn't bring much joy as regards to the winning end of things.
No, I had a bad time at minor level, I'm afraid. We were beaten by Tip in '57 and '59. But then, I suppose, I got the big break in '59. The '59 All-Ireland Senior was a draw. So I was brought on from the minor team onto the panel for the replay in 4th of October, I think it was, 59. So that was my reward, I suppose, or a bit of consolation for losing the minor final.
So you started off on a day that, again, the gods didn't favour you, because you came up against a great Waterford team of that era, a powerful team indeed.
What a team. Like, they just won one All-Ireland that in 59 in that era, between, we'd say, 57 63, but they were a super team. And, you know, it's a pity that they didn't win more, like, during that great era for Waterford.
And then, of course, you had the great battle with them, rerun back in 63. You scored a lot that day, Eddie, I think, in that match.
Things went well for me that day.
17 to 6-8, I think, was the final score that day.
You have a good memory. Good memory, yeah. It was an extraordinary match, because we were going ahead. Waterford got 6 great goals, we'd say. You know, we were ahead for them, but they kept plugging back and kept getting the goals that kept them in touch, you know. But we just got goals at the right time as well, and you know, it was an extraordinary game and an extraordinary score line at the end of it for a 60-minute game. Yeah,
absolutely. And the 60s then, of course, a great rivalry with Wexford, I suppose. Wexford were, during your playing career within Leinster, the big rivals for Wexford had to be.
Great hurling team. Like, if you look at Wexford became a hurling county really only in the 50s, I suppose, inspired by the Record brothers and, you know, all that great team of the 50s. And they sowed the seeds for all the great teams that came afterwards. The Leinster finals were something else between Kilkenny and Wexford in those years.
So 1968, a huge year for you, because the club is still at the heart and soul of the GA, isn't it?
It is, and I hope that always remains so, that the club is the hub of hurling and of GA. There was junior and senior in Kilkenny that time. There was no intermediate grade, and we won the junior in 63, which was a big for this, which hadn't a great tradition of strong hurling in this parish, but we won the junior and graduated senior. And then in 68 we went on and won the county final, senior county final, against probably one of the best club teams ever, Bennettsbridge. So it was a great boost to our club, and it is unfortunately the only senior championship we won, but we contested and were beaten in a few all our county finals with great teams that came at the same time, like the Fenians, which had the Hendersons and Bill Fitzpatrick, and also James Stevens had Chunky O'Brien, Mick Crotty, you know, all that, Joe Hennessy, all that great team. And then after that, of course, the Shamrocks came, which had the Fenleys and all those players. So it was very difficult to win a championship in Kilkenny, but we did, as you rightly said, 68 was the big year for us.
Yeah. What are the club colours here, by the way?
Green and red, yeah.
Green and red?
Yeah.
Good colours, eh?
Yeah, Mayo colours. So we might get our places on the Mayo football team, would we?
You never know.
Yeah.
And so club hurling back then, of course, you were playing against probably fellas like the great Van Larkin in the village.
Van Larkin, he was super hurler.
And a true character.
A great character. Sure, Brian Cody as well, you know, all those great players.
So after winning 1968 in the county here, that gave you the captaincy of the county senior team.
Yeah, and that's the rule in Kilkenny. The senior champions select the captain. So, like, it's a huge honour to be captain of the Kilkenny team, and I suppose I was also fortunate then that in that year we won the All-Ireland, so I had the real honour and privilege to accept the cup on behalf of my county. And of course there was 4 of us from the Roaring Steag on that team, so it was a great honour for me to be captain and for the players from our local team to play their part in winning the All-Ireland with Kilkenny.
Did you find that being captain of the team put any extra pressure on you that day?
Not really, no. Like, I suppose I could say I had an ability to focus when I was out on the field. Other than that, like, you were trying to motivate the rest of the players, maybe in training and in the dressing room and that, but at the end of there you went out and tried to play your own game then.
And were you confident all through that game that you had it in hand?
Well, not really. Like, we were playing, playing against Cork, who had a very good team. They had beaten us in 1966 before that. and that was a young team in '66, and they had matured to being a very good team. So it was touch and go for a long time, and we just sort of pulled out in the end, I suppose you could say. It became comfortable, maybe 5 minutes to go, I'd say.
Well, of course, it was part of the great rivalry with Cork in those times. And in 1972, I've heard it said that you always said that was one of the games that you felt you were probably almost at the peak. One of the games that you enjoyed best was the 72 final.
Yeah, that was an 80-minute final, one of the three, I'd say, 80-minute finals. And again, it was against Cork. Fantastic team that time. You know, you had the McCarthy's, you had Dennis Collin, you know, Con Roach, Charlie McCarthy, Jerry McCarthy, all that, those great players. And there was great rivalry, but there was always a great game between Kilkenny and Cork. They played a similar type hurling, open hurling, very skillful, and 72 was no exception. It was a great game. Cork were leading, I think they were 8 points up with about 15 minutes to go or so. And we just got a run on them at that stage, and I think we won by about 7 points afterwards. Right. So it was a great turnabout for Kilkenny and a great win coming from behind.
When we come back, we'll speak to Eddie about his senior career, his many awards, and the formation of the No Name Club.